The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests as individuals, and do not necessarily reflect those of advertisers or sponsors. This show is intended as education and commentary only. The producers strive for verisimilitude, but nothing said on this podcast should be taken as fact by the listener or viewer without performing due diligence. While generally considered safe for work by way of content, some language may be considered offensive by more sensitive viewers or listeners.
All right, cans on, mic's up, level's good. You got me over there? All right, let's roll.
This is Booth to Booth, your direct line to the latest in home voiceover production, with your favorite home VO experts throughout the industry, across the internet, and all around the world. Booth to Booth is brought to you by the Narrowband Broadcast Network, NBBN. The focus is on you. By Andrew Scott Media, making your media matter. By Booth Stuff, unique VO fashion and swag that's as loud and proud as you are. And by the kind support of our viewers and listeners all around the world via Ko-fi. Ko-fi, helping you give back to the creators that help you the most. The session clock is running and all the mics are hot. So let's patch in and get this session started. Here's your host, VO coach, narrator, and producer, Andrew Scott.
And hello and welcome back to Booth, the big little show all about VO. I, of course, am Andrew Scott, and today I have an extra special treat as we roll towards Halloween. I have the author of VO 101 and also More VO, Less BS, A Beginner's Guide to Voice Acting, the voiceover vixen, the maven of the mic, everybody's favorite booth witch and fire starter, Gabrielle Nistico. Gabby, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Oh my God, what a great intro. Holy crap, I love that.
Not my first rodeo. It's about my 13th.
See that?
Yeah,
Man.
but wow. Yeah, thanks for joining us on Booth to Booth. I've been wanting to talk to you pretty much ever since I got into this business.
Aw.
So, there you is. And, let's start off. We always start off with somebody new on the show with a bit of an origin story. As you know, we were talking at the beginning of the show, we're both weird people and we do a weird thing. But how did you get into this weird world?
So I was an aspiring / quasi-working actor as a kid in and around Manhattan. And I, at a very, very young age, fell in love with radio and with broadcasting. And I was obsessed with all the DJs at the big New York radio stations. I started interning at a station. I kind of worked my way up in my teenage years. And yeah, by the time I was in my early 20s, I had done a decent bit in radio, and I was getting a little disenchanted with it. And so voiceover kind of was always there. It was always like right behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up in the writer's strike, the big writer's strike in the 90s. I ended up getting hired to do some voiceover work, and got the check and went, wow, how do I do more of this and less of that?
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. That became the singular pursuit after it. Yeah.
And so you came in kind of like I did, where we were kids, we were raised on radio. And there was that magic voice in your head at night coming out of the transistor under your pillow. And you're I want to, how do you do that? Somebody's getting paid to do that. I want that.
I lived by my stereo. I mean, it was always, I always had blank cassettes to, record the most random things. And yeah. Loved it. Mm-hmm.
I can feel you being a mixtape queen. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. There's still a few in existence. They're floating around. We don't talk about them.
Okay, fair enough. How did you wind up transitioning over to indie work yourself?
So really, I was so young and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just was very tenacious and persistent, and I kept knocking on doors and I kept talking to people, and I probably made an ass out of myself more times than I could count.
Sometimes it gets the
Um,
job done.
right.
Yeah.
And I just sort of kept at it. And and again, yeah, like everybody else, I had the ups and downs, the discouraging moments, what am I doing? And but I started to, I think, really the smartest thing that I ever did in relation to this industry is that I started to realize I have to learn the back end. I have to learn, how it all comes to pass. And so I started doing part-time gigs at recording studios and ad agencies and as a copywriter, and kind of, taking those parallel skills in those related areas and just understanding it more, just having practical knowledge. And that really is sort of what catapulted me forward, because I was able to look at copy differently. I was able to look at the post-production process, even just the live recording process, totally differently than a lot of people were.
And I think, that's something that I try to reinforce to people a lot, that for one reason or another, I think is kind of unpopular. And that is, I found in my decade plus as full time and 30 plus years on and off, the people who are most successful, independently successful in this business, are people who have deep institutional knowledge of the back end stuff
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're Jacks and Jills of all trades. The more you know about the mechanics of how does a voiceover go
Yeah.
from somebody's need and idea to a
Mhm.
recording, that gives you such an edge.
Yeah.
You have so much more capacity to make something happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. I even went so far. I worked at one point at Muzak, which is the company that literally
Sure.
the original elevator music
You
people.
bet. If I
And
can pull it off in post, I'll have some playing underneath us
yeah,
right
there you
now. Yeah,
go. I worked there for a while, and I remember when I worked with them, they approached a couple of staff members and said, "Hey, we've got this opportunity to send some people to go to the radio ranch out in California." And I was like, "Yes."
right?
So,
Yeah, over
dove
your shoulder
headlong
on
into
the way
that.
out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, Dick working? Okay, yeah, mhm." So it was that. It was just really being a geek about the industry, and I
Yeah.
tell people it all the time. I'm like, "If you're not willing to geek out on this, don't do it. Don't. It's
And
not worth it."
I find, and I'm glad you used the it's not a pejorative, kids. Geek, be proud. Um,
Absolutely.
where it's so easy to be a geek or a nerd about our technology in this business, our microphones, our
Yes.
interfaces, all this stuff. I'm with you. I want to be a nerd about the deep esoteria of what we do. That's why
Yes.
the first the first four chapters of my book is talking about where this industry came from. Who are we
Mhm.
attached to? Who are Gary Owens from Laugh-In, right? Or, of course, Don LaFontaine, all those big names.
Yeah.
Don Pardo, that's where our industry was born. And if you don't
Mhm.
understand just a little bit of it and how those things work and how those people grew up to be what we are, and now we wind up, getting from them one hen, two ducks, three squawking geese, kind of, there is a benefit to a history and knowing those
Absolutely.
weird things and nerding out on those.
And not just the history, but the current, right? What's trending in advertising, what's going on with the socials, what's happening with trades, what's happening inside of streaming platforms. All of those things are so essential to our ongoing longevity. It really is an industry that it's evolve or die. And
Yes.
I've seen many voice actors over my years fail to evolve.
And not only that,
And
they're good talent. They were good on the mic. They did good reads, but they
mhm.
did not go deep enough into the other things that
Yeah.
happen outside of the booth.
Or they just failed to embrace, yeah, the new everything, right? New technology, new demands. And that's really a huge problem. I mean, any business owner will tell you the only way to survive is to constantly adapt.
Yeah,
So
yep.
we're no different.
No, we're not. Speaking of, what are you? seeing right now in the market with the, the advent of generative AI, which,
Mm-hmm,
all
mm-hmm.
us VO educators are kind of tired of talking about, but we have to.
I know.
What impact are you seeing in your business, in your flow, right now that's going on as we, end 23?
Genuinely nothing. Yeah,
Interesting.
not a single, not even yeah, nothing. Because what I've said kind of from the beginning, and I'm gonna stand by it still until I have a reason not to. AI is gonna wipe out a lot of the cheap corporate one and done fast presentation work
Yeah,
that right
the
now.
compliance bullshit that,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That right now, where's it being posted? Fiverr and Upwork.
Mhm.
And, it's the less desirable platforms, the less desirable work anyway. Now,
Mhm.
what I believe as a result of that is there's going to be a purge. And we've seen this before. I remember this very vividly in between '06 and '08 when the
Right?
market crash happened.
Mhm.
There was a mass exodus where we just kind of woke up one day and went, "Cool. There's many thousands of you guys in the novice category or the very beginner category who are gone,
Yeah.
and we're gonna see that again." And so I think the people who are the hobbyist voice actors, the ones who are trying to do it on the side or, that kind of thing, they're gonna disappear. And the people who are just reliant on, a nice voice, that's gonna go away. AI is gonna take over a lot of that. But the things that still require heart, emotion, connection, things that have been written by a professional copywriter, they are still going to need us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it kind of because I'm known in this world on YouTube as kind of a VO cheerleader, but I agree with you.
Yep.
The concept of the purge, and I mean to all my viewers and listeners, may the odds be ever in your favor. But
Exactly.
that is what I'm seeing. I am
Hmm.
starting to see that low-hanging fruit, that intro jobs, that $20 a pop YouTube video. Those are going to start to go away, but
Yeah.
what we're seeing now is, like you, I believe that we're headed into the great winnowing. And the ones that are going to survive are those who take this pursuit as not only a craft, but as an art form. And you
Yes.
lean on your art, you lean on your artistry, you lean on your ability to do everything that AI can't do. And the one
Yeah.
thing AI will never be able to do is have a spirit or a soul or whatever kind of woo-woo you want to put inside us meat bags.
Hmm.
It's just going to
Yeah.
be that way.
I think so. I really do. And yes, it's going to be we're going to see a sort of reverting right back to the artistry, back to the acting, back to the need for a much deeper skill set rather than just, hey, I have this studio and I speak really well and I read really well.
Yeah, I talk
That's
goodly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not going to be enough. No.
That begs the uncomfortable question.
I enjoy uncomfortable
Right,
questions.
exactly. Let's get
Sure.
uncomfortable together.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody asked you right now, if they
Mm.
came to you and said, "Gabby, is it a good time to get into this business? I've got the equipment, I've got the time, I've got the inclination, I'm willing to do what it takes." They say, would you advise somebody to roll the dice and try to get into this industry right now?
I will never dissuade somebody who checks all the boxes that you just mentioned, ever.
Mhm.
My one caveat, however, is what do you bring to the table that is unique or different? Because, again, business mind first, competitive analysis, right? If there are already 5,000 of you out there vocally, if you have a very similar voice print to a slew of other people, maybe not.
Right.
Maybe now is not the time. But if you can find where you bring something unique, something interesting, something that's a little bit different, absolutely. And this is the time for it, right? We're only going to see more and more demand for accented speakers, foreign speakers, for various ethnicities and ethnic groups. We're going to see more and more requests for non-binary talent. We're going to see, and this is going to be this really cool expansion um, of the industry in diversity, where, and we've already kind of seen it. It's already started, obviously, but uh, I've been saying for the better part of a decade that the typical 40-year-old white guy doesn't really
Yeah,
have as much of a stronghold on this industry as he used to.
I agree entirely.
You like guys like you, yeah, that category, that was the majority when I got started. That's all there was. It was just a
Sure.
sea of 40-year-old white men,
Yep.
and now everybody's kind of like, well,
Yeah,
we
that's
have,
so
yeah,
1992,
yeah,
really.
we have enough of you. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I do, and I feel that. I couch myself as an everyman. I am not some sonorous, fantastic voice. I'm not a big voice guy. Where I make my bread and butter
mm,
is with my authenticity, being an authentic voice that's got acting training and understands flow and modulation and intonation and putting a little spin on just one syllable, things like that.
yeah,
What I've
just
been,
being
yeah,
able
what
to
I've been,
sound like a human that you would meet at a mutual acquaintance with friends, or that you'd have a beer with, or that you'd sit down and go to a movie with, somebody that just comes across as very relatable and very genuine.
I am just, I sell myself as just that guy,
Mm-hmm.
not stereotyped, but very accessible. And that is
Yeah.
something that I agree with you. I think that's going to become special. What I've been telling people is, you're right. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when indie VO at home really kind of blew up,
Mhm.
there was more work for the traditional kind of announcery stuff that I used
Absolutely.
to do. That really at the millennium started dying away. I mean, my watermark for that is always the when Sprint started with the "Do you hear me now?" pin drop thing.
Mm-hmm.
We suddenly shifted over shortly after the millennium to a very common conversational read, and I mean for the better, I would argue.
I think it's great that you bring up Sprint, because something I find myself telling people all the time is, look at what the cell phone providers are doing.
Hmm.
Look at what the insurance companies are doing, right? So if we can kind of lump right now State Farm and AT&T and T-Mobile into this little ball, where if you start assessing their actors, their on-camera actors and their voice actors, that's it. The connective thread is that they're just so damn approachable and
Yeah.
easygoing, right? Jake from State Farm is a hero. Like,
Right.
people love him. Flo from Progressive, right? There's a reason these characters now have such longevity.
Yeah.
And we don't see that going anywhere. In fact, companies are trying to figure out how to create more of them
Yeah.
to do a similar thing.
And that is the thing that is becoming the hook. That is the thing that is becoming the difference maker. What I've been telling people now is, back when we started, when we got into this, a lot of it was, I can do that too. You hear
Mhm.
somebody and you go, I can do that too.
Yes.
I can do that too. Now has to be replaced with, I can do this and you can't. Somebody else can't. Not necessarily by way of niche, but approach.
Yeah.
Why do I sound different from anybody else? Why do you want to hire me with a Focusrite setup and a $300 mic versus somebody talking into a 416 that's been doing this longer than I am? Because
I
I am approachable. I am different. I
Yeah,
sound unique.
that's such a great way to look at it. Yeah, gold star for that one. Hell
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Hey, all
let's
right.
let's bullet that,
Woo!
let's tweet that, let's,
Right? And
yeah,
that
because
and
that's
and that's where we gotta go. And I think it holds hands with this artificial intelligence phenomena that we're experiencing right now, where Now we have to, I've got this analogy, and my viewers and listeners are probably sick of hearing this, but it works. So guess what? It's back. When you and I were kids and we were buying pickles, or our mom and dad were buying pickles, we had an embarrassment of pickle choices. Come the 90s, we now were pared down to like 3, Vlasic and, a couple others. But then towards the millennium, you go to a farmer's market and there's some dirty old hippie sitting there going, try my artisan pickle. And you try it and it's much better. And the guy wants $5 for a jar instead of $1 for a jar. He is going back and selling you something unique. It's a unique experience. It's a unique taste. What we need to do in our industry up against artificial intelligence is find that angle that says, but I'm doing this. My humanity is the thing that makes this better.
'Tis bespoke.
Very
And
good.
yes. And it does. It makes a huge difference. This is also why I'm such a stickler with people about their branding and their marketing efforts. And what are you saying about yourself? How are you presenting yourself? Because if you're doing this if you're generic, you're the
Right.
pickle on the shelf in the grocery store. It's
Yeah,
not
you're
gonna work.
the Nallies.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
never gonna happen. But if you really are curating something that is, again, that artisan, oh my God, people flock to it. They love it.
Right. And just, make sure you wash first before you get on a video call with somebody. Nobody likes to deal with a dirty hippie.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't know. Some people do.
All love to them. I'm a lax hippie. I really am. I gotta admit.
I'm a hippie until the patchouli comes out. Then I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Oh yeah,
All right.
I've breathed in enough Nag Champa in my life that I don't really need to go back there. We touched upon this a little bit, and I want to get this in on the first half before the break.
Okay.
Last time I checked, you're a female type person.
I believe so. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We need to do some kind of check here. What are again, we were talking that this was a male dominated industry. If we're being fair and honest, it probably still is a male dominated industry. What are some of the unique experiences of being a female, self-identified female in home VO today, or VO overall? But I'm really kind of talking about, what we do in our little booths. What are some of the things that some dumb, for lack of a better way of saying it, testosterone-laden person like me, what do I not know about your experience as a VO professional?
Okay. So
we got all the time in the world. I can make this a 3-part episode if we need to.
I think the first thing, the thing that I encounter more than anything, is that when people find out I'm a voice actress, they immediately, and I know this counts for men as well, we all sort of see this to an extent, they immediately, what kind of voices do you do? And what kind of goofy stuff do you do? But when I look at them and I say, yeah, that's not really me. I don't do a lot of goofy, silly. People hire me because they want a brand voice or a message that is serious and genuine and relatable. And people sort of cock a head to that. They're like, what do you mean? Because they still expect that it's going to be a man to present serious information.
They don't think you have the ability to bring weight to what you're saying.
Yeah, gravitas, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. They always expect that you're going to wind up doing, do you do a Powerpuff Girl? Kind of.
Or it's going to be either something really cutesy, or it's what I would classify as like a hard sell, over the top,
right,
type of commercial presentation, and
OTT
like,
kind of hype thing. Yeah. Do you get anything by way of business interaction? Are there landmines there?
I think the ones that I've experienced, and I'm going to tread carefully here, it's on the tech side. I have been mansplained things about my studio more times than I can count.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay.
just sort of like, okay, all right. I've been running this since before you were born, but thank you.
Right.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I needed to know that, Mr., 20-year-old
Right.
wholesale graduate.
Yeah.
So that still happens. That still happens even with clients that I've had for many years. If they're, I don't know, just yesterday, right? There was a huge Source Connect outage
Yeah.
that affected a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a rarity. Like that doesn't
No,
happen
that's
very
a
often.
pretty bulletproof platform.
Yeah. There was some little hiccup I was having with Source Connect. It took all of maybe a minute and a half to fix and to get the session underway, but the engineer felt it necessary to go out of his way to explain to me how the
Explain
platform
it to the
works.
girl.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the
Uh,
hell is happening here? Um, so yes, I feel like there's a lot of that. Um, I also see where we do have a lack of women in the engineering chair, in the editing and post-production chair. It's getting
hmm.
a little bit better, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like when I was a producer, I was a unicorn.
Right.
There, every once in a while I'd meet another female who produced audio and I'd be like, holy shit.
Right.
Um, there's more of us for certain, but, and this is again across the board, processing, how the voice is handled, what the end result sounds like. Sometimes it's a little scary. I can pretty easily tell when the final product was processed the same way we process our male voices.
Hmm.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I, for me as a VO educator, a lot of times, one of the things that I point new talent to is, look at things that are deployed already. Look at things that are already
Mm,
bought and paid for by somebody.
yeah.
Because what you benefit from right now the most is knowing what right sounds like. That's something somebody already paid for and is deployed. So that's a good model. But I think what you bring up is fascinating, and that is there's a distinctly different approach to treating a female presenting voice versus a male presenting voice, just by the fact that the vast majority of your voice lives in the 2500 to 4000, 6000 hertz, and people like me, we're down in the 12s and
Yes.
2000s, and
Yes.
our sibilance is different, and our labiodental fricatives are different, and all this shit. And if you treat it the same, you're going to wash away a lot of what makes your voice unique as a female presenting narrator.
Absolutely. A mission of mine for a while, I'm still kind of working on it behind the scenes, has been to bring together a sort of super team of women, engineers, myself, maybe another voiceover coach, specifically to help consult women on their studio sound and what's going to improve it and make it the best that it can be. I I mean, and I love our tech experts, right? Tim Tippett's, I love him. I want to squish him. I want to hug him and just kiss his
Yeah.
face. And yeah, I mean, like he's amazing. And I used him. George Whittam, same thing.
Oh,
Like I love
absolutely.
these guys,
Yeah.
but every so often, I run across, well, I was told to get a TLM 103, and I'm like, it ain't working for you, honey.
No.
And so there's a lot of little things there. Fascinating conversation too. I'm gonna bunny trail a little bit. I read an article just day before yesterday in the Washington Post about Bernie, can't
Mm-hmm.
remember last name, but I grew up with this person as the voice of the New York City Metro MTA, right? The transit
I
system.
know the story you're talking about. Talk about warming my heart. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I was like, this is incredible. So Bernie has come out as trans and
Yep.
is now transitioned to a woman. Same name, just
Yep.
short for a different
Yeah.
Bernadette now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the article included vocal samples.
Yes.
Before, after, and guy voice. Bernie, was
Right.
how it was kind of presented. She was very specific about going, this is my guy voice. But what I found fascinating was Bernie was still like, hey, I'm still going after work as a man because I
Right.
have my guy voice. No
And-
different than the way female voice actresses play little boys. I'm like,
right.
this is freaking
It's
brilliant.
another tool in your bag. You're not going to just dump the thing out. That's been paying your bills.
And you know what? There's such a movement, right, in the trans community to feminize the vocals and to
Yes.
change the or gender identify the vocals, either gender, whatever, that it didn't dawn on me. I was like, right, that's the smartest thing from a business standpoint. It is so
Sure.
brilliant.
Sure.
Personally, it might be a little odd. It might, there might be some conflict there, but holy crap.
And that's all that's to each their own regarding their comfort level. I actually had on, in my first season, I had VO coach Kylie Wayne on, who concentrates as a trans person, who concentrates on helping people in their transition to whatever gender expression they want,
Yes.
maximize that aspect of their voice. And the little things that you can add, even if you're not a trans person, talking and getting your head around the trans experience or the gender non-conforming experience
Mhm.
to go, well, I bet you I can use that to soften my delivery as a male narrator when I'm doing a female presenting voice in an audiobook. Or, so many things. Tools are tools. And just so long as you use them with a sense of dignity towards the people, then it's not appropriation. You're just doing
No.
the thing.
Tools are tools and vocal cords are vocal cords. So,
Right?
learn everything you can. I mean, this is one of the reasons I recommend people take singing lessons, even if they can't sing,
Yeah.
because you will learn so much about your vocal placement, about your breathing, about,
Yeah. Learn where
yeah.
your diaphragm actually
Oh my
is.
God.
Right?
And, jumping off, from there into other areas, it's so fascinating right now. Again, this is this diversification of the industry and how it's growing. But like, I remember what seems like a million years ago now. Um, and I've moved away from it because it hasn't been relevant anymore. But I had a very specific marketing and branding message where I basically presented myself as bitchy. And that was the crux of my marketing.
Go with
Everybody
what you
was like,
know.
"Who are you?" Bingo, exactly, go with what I know.
I mean that with
No
love and
one's gonna
respect, by the
argue that,
way.
yeah. So anyway, the purpose of it was the fact that there was, right, this sea of women doing Soccer Mom and doing, Sweet, and I went, "No, that's
Yeah.
not me." And the biggest driving force behind it, and one of the things I was railing against, was sexy. I didn't
Mm,
want to do the stereotypical radio sexy read. I was just over it, and I still had
sure.
to do it for some of my imaging stations, but that was the big thing. In commercial, I really wanted to reject that, and it worked really well. But interestingly, one of the things I had to do was change a lot of my placement
Mm.
to make that possible. I
So
didn't
more
even
more front of mouth?
more front, more a little bit more guttural.
Mm.
I have a vocal fry
Yeah.
now later in life that I don't think I didn't have when I was younger. Now,
Right.
age plays a part in it for sure,
Sure.
but I also think it's because of where I sort of trained myself to place. And it's fascinating how, that evolves. And I know I'm not alone in this. A lot of women in this industry are like, oh my God, I'm tired of just some of the castings being so narrow.
It's like every single, yeah, and we're right in the fat of the season, right? This show is coming out right before Halloween. It's the phenomena of the sexy version of every single stupid Halloween costume. The sexy
Yeah.
nurse, the sexy. I mean, really, all guys have, thanks to my shared namesake Andrew Scott from Fleabag. We got sexy priest, but y'all got sexy nuns and sexy housekeeper, and I don't know,
Sexy chicken. I've seen it
right?
all. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah. It's
it's
really,
ridiculous.
and that always kind of bothers me, not to sound woke, but proudly woke, by the way. And here's my snowflake tattoo for everybody who says something bad against that. This idea that when it comes to gender presentations on The Voice, the default concept for a woman is that of sexy. It's never empowered. It's never knowledgeable. It's never authoritative. It always dumbs down into this idea of the sexy voice.
I modeled my early career after Randy Thomas, like a lot
Ooh,
of women did in
sure,
my era,
right?
because she was it.
She was
We
the
didn't
voice.
right. It was
Yeah,
Randy was the goddess. I mean, that was it. But Randy never sold her soul like that.
no,
She there was integrity. I mean, she was doing hard copy and like
I just feel that my voice is very at home in a news environment. I feel really blessed to be a part of that team. I'm the first woman in its 38-year history. People go back to Ted Koppel, the original guy, and it was a man's world. So when you ask me where I fit, I like doing things that have been traditionally done by men up until, I get in the room. And then I get to allow the other women to come in through the door behind me.
intense news stories. And I was always like, fuck yeah, like that's the kind of shit we should be doing.
hell
I
yes.
still get a little icky now when I hear demos that have been produced for people where there's there's like for a woman's demo, it's like, oh, we have to have a makeup commercial, or oh, we have
Right?
to have something. I'm like, why
Yeah.
does that have to be
The
there? It's so
producer immediately starts dumping
misogynistic.
on the sexy sauce,
Yeah, I'm like, cut it out. That's not it. Now, if somebody wants that, great. If that's what
Different.
you're going for,
Yeah,
do it. But that is a discussion that should be had with the individual voice actor about how you want to be perceived and how you want to be presented.
agreed. And with that, we're going to jump to a quick break. This is the Narrowband Broadcast Network. I am Andrew Scott. That is Gabrielle Nistico. And this is Booth to Booth. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. Bye.
Booth to Booth is brought to you in part by Boothstuff.com, the home of the world's most unique VO casual fashion and swag. This thing that we do is pretty unique. So, slap on a Booth Stuff t-shirt that tells the world, or, your cat, that being in a tiny room by yourself is where you truly belong. Shirts, hats, pants, mugs, and more. Well, not a lot more. Actually, that's pretty much it, anyway. Booth Stuff is the one and only home for VO-centric swag that lets the world know what you do with that mouth of yours. So, head on over to boothstuff.com and get something that shows the world who you are and what you love to do. Boothstuff.com. Loud and proud.
And hello and welcome back to Booth to Booth, the big little show all about VO. I'm really proud of myself because quite often my fat lips get in the way. When I do that, I'm Andrew Scott, and I am speaking today with probably one of my favorite VO educators who really guided me into this business as well, Gabrielle Nistico, the gift of Gab, and author of a bunch of things and stuff, and you do wonderful things as a wonderful person. And
Thank you.
oh, no, thank you. Again, this is really a treat. But we're going to start getting into the weeds with a few things.
Okay.
So I got some questions here from my Booth Camp Discord server and from some people on Reddit. And one of the questions comes from my my Reddit friend, Bruce Almighty. And he asks, if you had to start again today from scratch, what's the one main thing that you would do different about getting into VO?
Damn it, Bruce.
Right?
Cutting
No,
right
Bruce.
to
Yeah,
it.
Bruce goes deep.
Holy shit. Oh my God. I have actually said this before on other platforms. There's two answers to this.
Fair enough.
One, I would check my ego at the door
Okay,
and
yeah.
and stop thinking that I know as much as I thought I did, because I fucking didn't.
Amen.
You know, I came out of radio like I'm hot shit, and everybody
Right.
went
Yeah,
down,
right.
little girl. I was
Yeah.
like, fuck. What the hell? Like, I mean, literally, it was just like, you know, I mean, it was like when you watch your dog sort of, you know, step on a puppy and just kind of hold it down and
Right.
go like, you're
Like,
not
now,
winning this.
son,
Like,
it's not your time
yeah,
yet.
no, not for you. No. And so I went through years of that.
Mm.
And the other is just shut the fuck up and listen more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
and they're very related, but literally I just feel like there were undoubtedly opportunities or things that I missed out on because I was either overeager or because I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was
Oh,
doing, or right, I
yeah.
didn't want to admit that I didn't understand. Yeah.
I think your last point is probably the one that I lean on the most. It is
Mm,
okay to not know what you don't know. And what I've found business wise, like you said, if you don't listen to particularly a prospective client, I mean, there's always going to be sometimes where communication creates a rub between you and an established client.
mhm,
But if you're not listening to what a prospective client is telling you, you're shooting yourself in the fill in the body part, because
mhm.
one of the things that they use to make their buying decision is, how much are my needs being attended to by the person who I'm going to trust with my message and my brand. And if they don't feel that you're truly listening to them and willing to say, you know what, I don't actually know the answer to that, but let me get in touch with somebody who does. And that right there will buy you so much grace with people. They'll be like, wow, you have enough humility that you don't know something. You're going to go learn it on my behalf to provide for my brand. That closes deals right there.
Mhm.
That gets you work.
Yeah, it really, really does. And you know, yeah. So if I could go back, um, I'd, you know, slap 18, 19-year-old Gabby around and go, "What are you doing? Shut up! Like, just
Listen,
listen to
listen
these
to them.
people." Yeah.
They're telling you, and a lot of times what I'll explain it is, they're giving you the keys to the car. They are giving you exactly what you need to know how to shape your approach to them, their business, their brand. All you got to do is listen and respond, and they will
Yeah.
fall in love with you.
I get a little twisted satisfaction nowadays because I can spot a version of me and my students from a
Mm-hmm.
mile away.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, the minute they either get a little bit defensive about criticism, or, you know, I know those little telltale signs, and I'm like, I'm gonna break you down.
That's
We're gonna
right.
do this. I got you. Because that's it. Because I so badly want to get through. And I understand, you know, where their head is and where they're coming from. And it's funny because every now and then I'll have another coach go, you know, this person was kind of difficult to work with. I'm sending them your way. And I'm like, come on,
Right.
come on. Yeah.
Step up. Yeah.
Because it usually is. It's just, it's ego, it's fear, it's, yeah. And it's just, once we start to really address those and wipe them out, we get somewhere. Then we can
Yeah.
make progress.
Yeah. It's the difference between, do you want to feel good or do you want to be good? Because being good insists that not every single time you get to feel good.
Mm-mm.
That brings me to the next question. My Discord user, Philip, asks, pick one to go first, VO coaching or traditional acting classes?
Traditional acting classes.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Right?
Absolutely. Like, yeah, I tell people all the time. So I turn away more students than I take, because the very first thing I tell them once I've had a chance to kind of talk and get a sense of what's going on, I'm like, okay, have you ever taken an acting class? If the answer is no, I'm like, that's your start point. I
Yep.
don't even want to talk to you.
Come back to me.
Yeah.
Come back to
Yep.
me. Yeah.
Yep. I'm like, go do community theater, go volunteer, do the church nativity,
Whatever.
take your pick.
The world is your oyster that way, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and you will get so much return on that time investment. It's crazy.
And I think even more importantly is it weeds out the people who are like, well, I didn't want to be an actor. Then why are you here?
Right?
Yeah.
This idea that, and again, I beat this drum almost more than anything else. Even if you're doing commercial, even if you're doing a 15-second stinger or a pre-roll, if it's not words coming out of your own brain through your pie hole, you're acting. You are acting. Us commercial, over the top guys, we're acting. Everybody's acting.
Everybody.
So if you don't have some foundation there or some experience about that, you are missing out a huge slice of the pie that makes you valuable as a talent.
Completely. And I always, what you just said and knowing that we have that in common, that's how I determine what coaches I align with and who I consider to be an ally and a friend in that mission to help the next generation. It is the people who go, yeah, have you taken an acting class yet? No. Okay, bye.
Right.
You come back to me. I might hear from you in 6 months or 3 years or never, but that's fine because I don't want your money until you know what the hell, at least something more than what you know now. And to me, it's admirable. I don't, the coaching crowd that I run with, we don't need the coaching income. We don't, do you know what I mean? We have enough.
Quite often it
going on.
interferes with our real income.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
It sucks up. I got 2 less days a week to be cranking stuff out.
Yeah.
And I love
so
doing it, but
wild.
you're right. I'm the same way. I will respect a coach so much more if they say no to your money in order to get you to do the order of operations that we all know by way of experience works best.
Truly. And I mean, when I hear people just kind of like, oh, just take this class, dude, I'm like, oh God, no, here we go again. Because it's predatory, it's misleading, and don't get me wrong, maybe there's a small percentage of people that actually it works out for them that way, but I do think it's pretty small.
And I think one of the things, again, for me, I focus my coaching and my education on people who are curious about this, who are just sticking a toe in, and I'm priced commensurately. But one of the things that I often tell people, aside from the fact when I do my interviews with them, I was like, I make you absolutely no promises. And if any voiceover coach promises you anything other than a smile, run from them. But where this goes is, if you get anything out of the time that you spend with me, if one of those things is I need to go and experience something else with another coach or with an acting class, or just taking more time to fall back and really truly consider this as a profession and a pursuit and an art, then I've done my job. And I think that you probably have gotten your money's worth out of me.
Yes.
I would much rather people try and go, it's not for me, or try and go, you know what, I need to do this first, rather than, okay, go get yourself an AT 2040, wrap your bedroom in mattress toppers, and learn the basis first. And the basis of this, no matter what you're doing, even if you're narrating the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, volume 12, it's acting, it's delivery, it's connection. And if you don't take time to learn how to connect with somebody, you're already lost. You really should, I don't know, take up Minecraft streaming on Twitch, and I mean, I say that with respect to all my Twitch friends. Okay. Sorry.
I know, but it's so true. It really is. It really is. And, there's so much better things that people could be doing with their time if they really, here's the thing, and we all know this right now. Every single one of us, every coach, we're dealing with this in some way. There's far too many people right now who are like, well, I bought the gear, I bought a microphone, and I have a studio. I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you do that? You
Yeah.
don't know how to use it. You don't like, and they're baffled that that's my approach. And I'm like, no, you could put it all back in the box and return it right now, as far as I'm concerned, because you're nowhere near ready for that.
That's like going out and buying all the paints and the easel and the brushes and the wig, and the only thing you've ever done is watch Bob Ross.
Yes.
You know, that's Bob Ross's gig. You know, so I'm in complete
Yeah.
concordance with you. I would much rather people spend a lot more time researching, a lot more time digging. How much of this, though, and I know your answer, but I'm giving you the opportunity to be the presenter on it. How much of this do you think is pandemic driven? How much of this do you think is I had that, that stimulus check and I needed to figure out something to do in lockdown?
Yeah, I think that there is definitely a large percentage of that, no doubt. But there's also a large percentage now of, and we've always seen this, people who don't like their job, people who don't like what they do for a living. And they look at us, and I mean,
Baby jelly.
we kind of love this shit.
Yeah.
So, they want that fulfillment. They want that same sense of accomplishment. And right now, it's just too goddamn cheap and easy to go up on Amazon and buy a package.
Well, and even more so now that we're on the back end of this pandemic, that's not done with, by the way, kids, go get your shots, is, all those people that went out. How many SM7Bs were sold in the pandemic? How many Scarlet Solos flew out the door? And you know what, kids? Now is a great time to go buy a microphone on Craigslist.
Mhm,
Because,
absolutely.
and I say that literally after we're done here, I need to get up and go buy a microphone off of Craigslist because I can't say no.
I
Go ahead.
I scour, Guitar Center's used gear. I'm always looking at stuff like that because it's amazing how much of it has hit the market.
Why buy new when used will do?
Definitely.
Not a whole lot of moving parts in a microphone.
Not really. And I mean, as long as it hasn't been abused or taken on the road by a bunch of musicians, I think you're fine.
That's true. And as a former musician and roadie, I can attest to the fact that tour microphones are revolting. They are so abused.
Mm-hmm.
As we wrap up here, Gabby, let's do some crystal balling. And that came out slightly inappropriate, but I promised you that when we were talking. What do you think 24 is going to be for the industry? The industry is in such a weird place right now, and this winnowing and all that. What are you kind of seeing in the future in this next calendar year by way of AI and the market and all this other business?
So, like we were talking about earlier, definitely a bit of whittling down. I think we're going to lose a lot of the lower budget gig economy type jobs and talent subsequently.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see a pretty large influx in two areas of the industry. One, commercial,
Mm-hmm.
which people are always like, well, how can that be? Because it's already so big. But it's mainly because the streaming platforms are finally admitting defeat.
Yeah.
And realizing that they have to operate like traditional broadcast if they intend to continue to operate.
Right.
And so realistically, we're headed in, I had a long conversation about this just a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine who's not even in voiceover. We're rapidly moving in a direction where streaming is going to be exactly like cable. And there's going to be blocks and commercial break, and it's just going to exponentially create that much more content.
Everything old is new again.
Yep, always. And the other is dubbing, and there's been a lot of buzz around that because of foreign content and foreign everything from TV shows to movies to documentaries that are finally being imported into the US because the US audience has kind of gone, oh, they're making some good stuff. And
that's
it's like
something we got from the pandemic. How many people suddenly are like, I apparently love Korean soap operas.
Right, and,
You know?
exactly, like Squid Games and, like,
Right.
all of these things
I
became
mean, you've
so
watched all of
good.
Bake Off. Now what am I gonna be able to
Yes,
do? And it's
yes.
suddenly, yeah. And I have a really good friend of mine, Morgan B. Keaton, who runs a Loop and a Walla group down in California,
Nice,
who was saying busier than we've ever been.
It's only gonna keep happening, and I still find that fascinating because I'm like, I don't know why this country is so freaking lazy. Everyone else on the face of the planet will
Yep,
simply watch the subtitles.
sure.
We, if we don't hear it in English, we're not happy.
I think it's because
I
we're distractible. I
Yeah,
think,
that's
I
probably,
I I am one of these people. I am one of these people where I lifelong Doctor Who fan, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Love Peter Capaldi to death. Love the Scottish Brogue. Have to watch his episodes with subtitles on because
What would that be? Have you thought about it?
I just, what are you saying?
Yeah,
You know,
well, that's very specific, and I
it's
get that, but
a bit, yes.
I'm super guilty of, and this is me watching television,
Right.
and people going, "Are you watching?" "Yeah, huh?"
Yeah, I am.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I," but
Mhm.
what I'm really doing is I'm listening.
Mhm.
I'm not actually watching, and so I know if it has subtitles, I have to be completely distraction free.
Yeah.
That's rare.
That's an investment
Yeah,
of time and mental capital that a lot
absolutely.
of Americans are not willing
They're not.
to do.
They're not. So, as a result, we get a shitload of dubbing work.
There you go. Hey, I was just
Yay!
gonna say, if it rains on some of us, that's fine by me.
Skill too to pick up and
Oh,
just play
yeah,
with and
and then,
understand.
that's another thing that I've been pointing people to, and, to be fair, and to the listeners and viewers out there, dubbing and walla and looping they're kind of their own special little world, and admittedly, it can be really hard to get in. I'll put a link to my, episode with Morgan Keaton up there, and you can learn a little bit more about it. But here's another opportunity for beginning VO interested people. If you can get into a group like that, even if you're
Mhm.
dealing on Casting Call Club and you get into a dubbing practice group with people, that is a great way to cut teeth, get some chops under you in an adjacent field that starts giving you real world practice on something that you can market. You
Yeah.
don't need to own all the microphones. If you go to a dubbing group or a looping group, you're around 2 or 3 microphones, and you just show up and essentially do what you're told and get the experience.
Yeah. It's very
It
true.
it's a great way to get in. As we wrap up here, though, Gabby, what have you got going on right now in the future? What are you doing by way of Gift of Gab, all that stuff? Hit everybody with all the places that they can go find Gabby.
So it's just more right now.
Good.
I'm in the middle of a massive website overhaul that has been making me pull all the blue hairs out of my head.
Right.
But yeah, it's just one of those intense, like, it's not a tear down exactly, but just, restructuring, making the site more user friendly, all that good stuff. Making classes more accessible. So yeah, GabrielleNistico.com is just full of all the things.
Right, right.
The YouTube channel, we're ramping up significantly. I used to only put out one video a month.
I've seen,
Okay,
what, 3 from you this week, right?
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's at a point where what's happening is, of course, because content is king, we're driving more.
Right.
So, and we're being asked to. So, putting out more videos, striving for one long and like a couple of shorts
Yeah.
throughout the week.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. I will be in 2 weeks at Anthony Pica's a VO Journey
Very
conference, virtual
cool.
conference. I'll be speaking there.
Mhm.
Let's see what else. I mean, those are kind of the biggies right now. Yeah.
And if anybody is interested in your commercial services, is that GabbyNistico.com or is that the
No,
VO Vixen?
that's actually VoiceOver Vixen. Yeah,
That's what I thought it
separate
was.
site. I kind of keep
Right.
them separate just so it's not an overwhelming amount of information.
I've got 17 email addresses on just this one computer. Everything is compartmentalized and siloed. Yeah, but
Yep.
um Gabby, thank you again so much for coming on Booth to Booth with me. Please do come back at some point in the future. But where can people find you on social media so that they can follow you?
Pretty much all my handles are either voiceover Vixen or Gabrielle Nistico.
And of
So
course,
makes it
everything,
super
all
easy.
the relevance are going to be down here underneath the frame. But once again, Gabby, thanks so much, and happy Samhain, and a very wonderfully spooky VO Halloween to you and you all. And again, everybody else, thank you very much for joining us on Booth to Booth. Do me a favor, if you got anything out of this video, as always, like, click, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Everything's down there. Go buy a t-shirt, man. Help keep me on the air. And until next time, everybody, I am Andrew Scott. That, of course, is Gabrielle Nistico. And this has been Booth to Booth. We'll see you in the booth, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
From the beautiful Pacific Northwest, this has been Booth to Booth with Andrew Scott. Booth to Booth is a narrowband broadcast network production in association with AndrewScottMedia.com. Andrew Scott, executive producer. Our theme music was written and produced by Ron Kajawa. Website design and maintenance by Vacano Creative. Christopher Vacano, webmaster. Available at VacanoCreative.com. Audio and video production by Andrew Scott. Available at AndrewScottMedia.com. Got topic ideas, questions, or comments for the show? Email us at patchin@booth2booth.com or by simply clicking the link in the description. On behalf of host Andrew Scott, I'm Eric Murray. From our booth to yours, thanks for joining us. See you next time on Booth to Booth.
NBBN.
The Narrowband Broadcast Network.
The focus is on you.